Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Wednesday college football and basketball edition of Sidelines, and got a great lineup today. We're going to start off first segment with Dudley Dawson, hawgville.net. Always love having Dudley on. Covers the Razorbacks 36 years now. He knows that program inside out. We'll get his take on football and basketball, what's happening. Arkansas has Alabama tonight, and that's going to be a really good game. The SEC basketball picking up where it did last year, but they better be better in the postseason. Not much. You had Arkansas now for the second year in a row, made it to the Elite Eight. We'll talk football and basketball with Dudley. Second segment, David Schultz checks in, WNSP, FM 105, all sports, first FM all sports station in America, down in Mobile, Sultan of the Sunbelt and the SEC and the national sports picture. Top of hour number 2, Coach John Brady, formerly at Samford, LSU in the Final Four, and Arkansas State. We'll get his thoughts on college basketball. He is the color analyst on the LSU radio network, and really, God, he's got a great basketball mind. A lot of fun. He's from down in Brookhaven, Mississippi, where he is, and we'll be checking in with him. And then Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covers Georgia for us. Talked with Jordan Monday before the big game against TCU. Well, it was perceived to be a big game, but it was a 65-7. I think the district attorney in Tarrant County, where Fort Worth is considering filing assault and battery charges against Georgia for that beating. God, that was awful. But now Georgia national champions. We'll get Jordan's perspective. I heard him on the press conference on SEC Network yesterday talking to Kirby Smart. Hey, we're here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 2 hours every day. Hear us live, www.sidelines.live. Tell your friends about it. Be a subscriber on Patreon. Help the show grow. You can give $5, $10 a month, however you want to do it. Also, sponsorship opportunities are available. That information is 901-606-1929. We're growing from starting here in Memphis and over here in Wynn, more regional now, starting to pick up radio stations, terrestrial radio stations on the Sidelines Southern Sports Network, and a lot of things happening. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. All right, Dudley, welcome to Sidelines, hawgville.net. And got to ask you, last week, there was chatter out there, not that you were starting, you were just hearing it like we all were. KJ Jefferson, Kendall Browse to Mississippi State. And I'm thinking, like you were, well, Will Rogers says he's coming back to Mississippi State. But, Arkansas, I tell you the thing, before we get to anything else that I'm the angriest about is Jalen Cadlin, Arkansas, as a friend of mine said, paid for 2 surgeries, stuck with him, and he said he loved Arkansas, and now he's in the portal, and I guess he's going to Texas. That's the frustrating part about this. But Arkansas, with Travis Williams coming in, Marcus Woodson, they made some changes. If you could, let's talk about the staff changes, offense and defense for Arkansas. And are you surprised about Jalen Cadlin? I know he's had a hard time getting off the ground, but going to Texas, man, that hurts.
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously he's from there, and that was one of the schools that he considered. Actually, he was a very good baseball player as well. He and I had a conversation at one point that he actually thought about playing college baseball instead of college football with his injury history. Maybe that would have been the right thing for him to do. Always thought he's a great kid. He approached everything the best he could. Now, obviously, when you grow up in the state of Arkansas and you're our age, Texas is not the place you want somebody to go. But wish the young man well.
Yeah.
First of all, wish him health, not only to get on the football field, but obviously just to get through life and all that. But, that's not the best thing in the world. But if he was a bad kid or very narcissistic or something, you might be a little bit more upset. But I wish him.
I'll tell you what, If I were him, I'd sit down with Marcus Woodson and talk to Marcus, because Marcus is a great defensive backs coach. He's put a lot of guys in the NFL. Also a great recruiter, but a good man. I don't know if they had a chance to spend much time together. I mean, but classes start at Arkansas in the next 5 days, I think, 6 days.
17.
Okay. And when do they start at Texas? I mean, has he left yet? I mean, I know you can go in the portal, you can come back out, and they're not obligated to keep you, but I would think if he wanted to come back, Arkansas would certainly want to keep him.
Well, I am sure that the new Arkansas coaches, as well as Coach Pittman, have done their best to try to see if they can turn that around. And until he enrolls there, I guess everything's still up for grabs. But it doesn't, sure look like he is on the verge of being a Longhorn. Next season. Yeah. All right. Talk, if you would, about the staff changes, what you see, who left, who's coming in. We know some of the names, but start first with the offense and what you think is, if this is a positive or anything else. Well, obviously, Dow Loggins, who was born in Newport, like me. Yeah, right. And, he, I think there were some people upset that he went to South Carolina, but he was given almost a $500,000 raise or whatever. I mean, I can't doubt him for that. And if you ever want to come back and be the offensive coordinator at Arkansas or be a head coach at Arkansas, you've got to get away, I think, and do some things. So I don't blame him for that at all. Obviously, they brought in the tight end coach, Morgan Turner from Stanford. He's had a lot of great tight ends out there. So, I don't think you lost anything there for sure. And he has been able to work with the tight ends during bowl prep, or at least stand out there and get evaluated with them. So I think that was certainly a great pickup. Unlike some Arkansas fans, I like everything Kendall Browse does except when he gets close to the goal line. I think he's had a lot of great offensive numbers here. The red zone is the biggest thing, and Coach Pittman talked about that in his end of the regular season speech, that they've got to get better in the red zone. So that's going to be a focus. I expect that to continue to get better with the healthy KJ Jefferson and really some of these wide receivers that they're bringing in the portal. As far as the defensive changes, as we talked last week, those two guys really well. They have hit the ground running, recruiting here, landed some cornerbacks and linebackers. So I feel like, here's what I've been telling people when people have come up and asked me. After 6-6, after the way you had one of the most awful defensive seasons in terms of yards that you've ever seen in the history of the school, something had to change. Well, something has changed. Whether it happened organically or moved on, then you've you can debate that, but something had to change. It has. So you at least have done something. Also, Dominique Bowman, who was here for just 1 year, he will no longer be here to coach defensive backs. Mr. Wooten will be doing that. So it's been a very interesting transition, but I would tell you again, I focus on the thing that if you did what you did when you went 6-6, you're going to be either that or less next year. And I think the changes have to give people hope because, and as I said last week, when you're 131 out of 131 in pass defense, you can only get better. Yeah, I like that article you wrote in hogville.net about Marcus Woodson in Florida State. They were 4th in the secondary ratings. And I just watched the guys that he's coached, Fresno State, Memphis, and then he comes to Auburn, goes to Florida State for 3 years, and he had a great defensive back at Memphis, out of Nashville, I think out of Hunters Lane High School. Was it Terrence Carter? But Mark, that's going to be huge. But I got to ask you this: if you don't have the defensive linemen and those edge rushers to put pressure on the quarterback, it makes it difficult, doesn't it, for your secondary? Yeah. Because if a guy can pick his second and third receiver routes and have 5 seconds in the pocket, you got a problem. Yeah, I was surprised a little bit that some of Arkansas's holdovers didn't make a push and have more tackles and see more action last year. They've got one edge rusher they're bringing in the portal named John Morgan from Pittsburgh, which they feel real good about. But I think as they continue to go along here, and that we'll see before the school starts if they get any more in here. But if you don't, you're going to have to bring some other guys in here for depth purposes, or just try to hit lightning in a bottle in terms of the defensive line, or you're asking guys that are already here to make huge jumps. That's the biggest concern I would say right now is the defensive line. Can they compete in the SEC, which is pretty good next year?
Yeah. Well, when you look at front sevens and the top teams in the country, 2 and 3 deep across the board is what you've got to have. And you've got to have edge rushers. Everybody covets them, but they're not easy to find. Then you get the interior linemen for that surge up the middle. And really, if you think about the old 52 defense, 5-2, all those guys, pushing and tying up the offensive linemen, the linebackers fill those gaps. It's a stopgap defense, whatever. What are you expecting? What's Travis Williams saying? I know when he worked with Kevin Steele, they would say, we are the other team's adversity. We're going to keep them guessing. We're going to hit them with all kind of different alignments. And I go back to my favorite defensive coordinator of all time, Bill Oliver, Brother Oliver. I mean, he would sometimes rush 11. But the key phrase of Bill Oliver's, 13 SEC titles, 4 or 5 national championships he's been credited, being part of, was interchangeability. He teaches everybody on that defense to know everybody else's assignments. And I think Kevin Steele, if you look at the way his defenses are, I think that's what you're going to see with Travis Williams. Have you had a chance to kind of break down, or I know it's hard right now with what all's going on, but I think you're going to see a lot of what you saw with Auburn's defenses with Kevin Steele, which were always in the top 15, top 17 in the country.
Well, I think it's certainly going to be a more aggressive one. I think Coach Barry Odom did a good job when he was here. Certainly the last year, numbers just tell you it wasn't very good, and your eyes tell you too. And again, I think Travis is going to come in, do some things that will look different. They will excite the fan base because it will be different. Again, the whole same old thing that we were talking about tends to lead to malaise and fan apathy in terms of, or really not. I shouldn't say fan apathy because they had plenty to say about it.
Yeah, they're not apathetic, not the Razorbacks that I know.
Yeah, but
I promise.
Yeah, but so I think that obviously there's going to be some different stuff done. Coach Pittman believes that he's hired the right guys, and certainly when you look from when you take a viewpoint from up above and try to take yourself out of it. Again, the thing I stress is you couldn't do you couldn't do the same thing, or you were going to get the same results. You have 2 very vibrant guys coming in here, very different than really the 2 that left in terms of Dominique Bowman and Coach Odom. So it's going to be a different philosophy. I've talked to a few of the defensive guys, and they're excited by just the energy and vibrance that these guys are bringing. And I think that's a big key.
Oh, look, when you're working people like rented mules, they better like you. I mean, they better believe in you. But that's what you're going to get out of them. I mean, when you talk to Marcus Woodson, you talk to Travis Williams, they're going to open up a lot of doors. We call Arkansas the High South up in the northwest corner. Sam Pittman, when he was at Georgia, it was no fun to recruit against him. If you were recruiting an offensive lineman, God help you if he was a Georgia kid, it's just he wasn't going to. You were not going to beat him out. He has a way to connect with people. Marcus and Travis, very similar. I think what he's doing is you can't, Dudley, wouldn't you agree? You can't bring in guys that are just great recruiters if they can't coach well. If they can't coach a lick, it really, you have a bunch of talented players that are poorly coached, and you'll go 7-5, maybe 8-4.
Yeah, and if you can coach technique but not get the kids here to play that technique, it's I think he's worked on this thing the years he's been here. There certainly has been many staff changes. He hadn't, just stayed constant with what he was doing.
Yeah.
He's always stressed recruiting. He also has, talked about obviously them being able to play the position. So I think you can look at every hire and every let go or whatever phrase you want to do and find things that either they weren't recruiting or their position wasn't playing as well. And that has caused, along with people getting other jobs, as we mentioned in Dow Loggins. And you want people to want your coaches. If they don't want them, then you got the wrong ones.
Well, every year you're going to go through that. And what I want to do, we're going to take a break when we come back. Like for you to talk, there got to be people behind the scenes. But one of the things that really jumped out at me when Sam Pittman got to Arkansas was that everybody on his staff, there were 34 at the time. I'm sure there's more. Florida's got more people on staff in support roles than they do scholarship football players. I mean, reminds me a lot of the federal government. I mean, the Department of Redundancies is being redundant, but there's got to be some people behind the scenes that we don't know about that you do, not violating any proprietary secrets and what have you, but they make things happen. But Sam Pittman writing the personal thank you notes every day when you come in the office. And I was always taught, sign your name in the upper left-hand corner. People know it's you because they look at that handwriting and go, it's not my child, but it's childlike. It's just somebody that I know, wrote that up there. But people matter. Sam Pittman and that staff, they know this about recruiting, but we'll talk about it more with Dudley Dawson, hawgville.net on the Wednesday College Football and Basketball Blitz.
It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne back here with you on this Wednesday edition. This is the ECS House Industries over in Cherry Valley, Arkansas Razorback Report with Dudley Dawson of hawgville.net. Dudley, Sunday afternoon, Audrey and I, she goes, I want to go ride around, just ride around. And of course, this time of year when we ride around, we're always scouting for ducks and looking for ducks and just in the area, pretty wide area. Well, we went up to Cherry Valley, the home of ECS House Industries, and our good friend Chad House and his great company. People love working for him, and he loves the people that work for him. I love having them as a sponsor. Went up to Cherry Valley, went over to Bird Eye, and instead of taking a right going down to Levesque, we went on up to Bay Village and up to Harrisburg to the Sonic. And riding along the ridge, that is absolutely beautiful. It's a whole nother world up there, about 700 feet up. We might get an inch or two of snow. They get 6 inches up there, but man, Arkansas is a beautiful state. And everywhere you go, you see in the front yards, Razorbacks and Hogs, and it's incredible. And what this state is like. And you talk about apathy, absolutely no apathy. They have something to say about everything the Razorbacks do. But there are people behind the scenes up there.
I think the word I was looking for was apoplectic, not
Yeah,
apathy.
there you go. All right, because man, they are passionate. But let's talk about some of the behind the scenes people that really make things happen in the athletic department that Sam Pittman brought in, and maybe there's some that have been around a long time. That shadow of Big Daddy, nobody will ever outlive that. But who are some of these people?
Well, I think the first guy that comes to mind is Kevin Trainer, who's been a sports information guy, and now he's an assistant athletic director and kind of the guy that's been over there the longest, been through several administrations and continues to help advise and obviously make the thing work. Scott Brady, who used to be the university's lawyer and now works for the Razorback Foundation.
Yeah.
Are two of the guys that really come to mind. There's certainly others that have been there a while. I think Jerry Thorpe in the women's department is someone that makes things go. And there certainly are many others. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm going to just but it's one of those things that when you have been here as long as I have, and as long as Bob Holt, Nate Allen, Mike Irwin, some of the others, Grant Hall, and that have been around, we've been around these same people at the same time. Who is key in the inner workings of things, and so I think they've been a constant. Whereas athletic directors have come and gone, per se, that being assistant athletic directors, you hadn't had many just pure athletic directors.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of business people that have helped things go, and it's all allowed them to get to the stadium that they have over there right now, which is so different than when I arrived up here in 1981 and there was 30,000 seats. Yeah. You didn't have lights. And things like that early on. So there's been a big thing. And I don't want to forget to mention getting into the SEC was a big thing. You could have stayed in the Southwest Conference. That thing would have folded, and you would have been searching out on the plane. That was really a tremendous decision by Coach Broyles and seeing the future there. Although many at the time were thinking, what has he just done?
Yeah, and I'll look at here. John Hartwell's on here with us right now, and John's going to be doing the show with us a lot. Formerly, he just left being the AD at Utah State from Mobile. And John, we're on with Dudley Dawson right now, hawgville.net. And after that, we'll have another Mobilian, as we called them when I was at Auburn, the Mobilians. Actually, the Mobilians were a bunch of girls we met at spring break one time from UMS Wright. And
not to go too much info here, I think.
No. They were we called them the Mobilians. But Dudley Dawson is hawgville.net. And Dudley, John just moved back recently in the last month with his wife from Logan, Utah, after being out there the last 8 years as AD at Utah State, to El Dorado. The city of gold, I guess they call it. So he is now in the Razorback state, but wanted to get y'all hooked up to meet one another. And so, John, say hi to Dudley Dawson, a native of Newport, Arkansas, but grew up in the farming community of Balch.
How you doing, Dudley?
I'm doing good. Enjoyed Utah State. They've had a good program out there that obviously doesn't get a lot of mention here, but if you follow college athletics, you know how successful they've been and upset a few people along the way.
Yeah, got a little state of Arkansas influence out there with Blake Anderson and several guys who were on his staff at Arkansas State. So yeah,
Blake's such a great dude.
Yeah, he is.
I'll tell you, what's funny to me, Dudley, is the number of people around the country from Arkansas. And I asked this question one time to Tommy Tuberville. I said, if you took a list of all the people that are from Arkansas or have the ties, I mean, Jimmy Johnson grew up in Beaumont, Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, he was classmates with one of the greatest singers of all time, Ethel Merman. No, Janis Joplin.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is another state. I mean, what is Larry Lacewell, former coach at Arkansas State? He used to say, I'm the second best coach to ever come out of Fordyce, Arkansas. And who was the first one? Oh, yeah. Coach Bryant. It's just, Dudley, you ought to write a book about this. The people that got away from Arkansas, that were from Arkansas. And here, one more question I got to ask you real quick. Coach Bryant in 1941, was on the staff, I believe, with Red Sanders at Vanderbilt. There was a coaching opportunity at Arkansas. He was on his way over there to interview for the job. Crossed over, was around Forest City on Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, when the news of the Pearl Harbor attack was broken. He turned around, went back, and enlisted in the Navy. Wow. Talk about a native son. What do you think that would have been like?
Well, certainly would have been an interesting and would have maybe turned out different. But that's, you just never know. I talk a long time about how for the longest time, Charles Ballantyne, the great basketball player up here, best friend growing up, played in Newport. He was going to head to Harding or St. Louis, and I was going to be in tow. But Keith Lee decided not to go to Arkansas. Charles Ballantyne gets recruited by Arkansas. I came up here, I thought as a point guard, but it was as a manager. And the rest is history. It allowed me to go up to Michael Jordan one time and say, I'm 1-0 against you. So.
Oh, that was the famous game in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, wasn't it?
Yeah,
on a Sunday afternoon.
February 12th, 1984. More important for Arkansas fans that Arkansas won that game, but more important for me that I met the mother of my kids and my late wife Laura that night. So that will always hold a special meaning for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, you are. We met you, through Fran's Beard, and of course Audrey saw it last spring when you've been on this show. But I tell you, every time you're on here, it's a knockout, man. It's fantastic. One more thing before we go, and I got to ask you, Razorback basketball, because John played basketball at the Citadel. That was an easy picnic, no. I can't imagine up at 5 a.m. Basketball practice and go study calculus and finance and accounting. So anyway, the Razorbacks tonight host Alabama. Auburn got the win the other day. Playing on the road in the SEC is brutal. But, the Fighting Musselmans, they've been to the Elite Eight 2 years in a row. What do you expect out of this team?
Well, I expect them to continue to get better. Obviously, not having Nick Smith and Trevon Brazile, two of the better six players, I think you can say for sure. And it appears Nick will be coming back in February as long as that knee heals up. But you go 1-3 tonight if you lose. And Alabama and Tennessee have clearly, to me, set themselves apart as the top two teams in the SEC right now. This is Coach said last week against Missouri, it was a must win. I think he had a T on the end of that instead of an S. But I think this is almost one of those tonight, and it's going to be tough because Alabama's a really good team. Obviously, proved it on the road and at home. But you're asking yourself if you go 1-3 to really have to do the same thing you have the last 2 years to fight yourself out of a hole. How many times can you do that?
Yeah, you don't like it. I mean, some teams are just like a sixth man coming off the bench. They like it, but there's a lot of talent on this Razorback team. But it'll be fun to watch. Dudley, look, man, I want to say thanks so much for coming on here with us. We appreciate you taking time. You work harder than 36 Mennonite farmers up on Crowley's Ridge. But tell people how they can follow you, keep up with your great work, and as they say up in Chicago, go HAWGs. Go Hogs.
Well, working for hawgville.net, which is the website that covers Arkansas. Lady Beavers offered me that job, and it's been great so far. Fearless Friday, writing a lot of basketball stories. I'm going to write something today about my old coach, Bill Osier, the court was dedicated on Friday night. I got to see a game between Newport and Tuckerman. So they really enjoyed seeing that and the court dedicating, seeing some old teammates and, trading some of those old stories.
Well, we had
and actually drove out to Balch
and
took a picture of the sign because there's not much else to take a picture of anymore.
Yeah. Hey, Tuckerman. I know that's some of our best friends. Marianne Ford was from Tuckerman, moved to Memphis. I knew her always all my life in Memphis, but Tuckerman, Arkansas, Memphis. Dudley, got to say this, the largest small town in America. And you just cross that river. When you come in, as my Razorback friends say, one team, one state. They all need to be following you at hawgville.net. But have a great week, Dudley. And hopefully y'all are not going to be 1-3 after tonight. I'm looking for Razorback pride at the Bud Walton Arena. You're going to win, let's say 74-69.
I know we're not going to be 1-3 because I'm a fan of the Boston Celtics.
Celtics, Cowboys, and
Cardinals.
Cardinals. I know the Cardinals, but your wife's a Braves fan.
Yes, she is.
Okay. All right. No, listen, I was at the Battery 3 weeks ago, so that place is incredible. Anyway, thanks so much. Have a great week.
All right. Later, guys.
All right. That is Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. That's brought to you by Chad House, the great folks at ECS House Industries over in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, right in the heart of the Delta. All right, let's head back down Highway 45 in Mississippi. I call it the land that time forgot. Crossover into Citronelle and Saraland. I'm just getting excited because I'm going to the beach, and we're going to Mobile, and we've got David Schultz, WNSP FM 105. Yeah, with John Hartwell and David Schultz on right now.
I still got minus 1,500. Rob Browne's a no-show for the Senior Bowl. I got minus 1,500. By the end of the week, it'll be minus 2,000. He is a heavy favorite for a no-show. I mean, plus, what happened to your hair? Did you lose a bet? What's going on there? What is that?
I lost a bet. I lost
you
a
just
bet
need
on
to shave
something.
it all off and start again. God.
But let me say this. We are going to the Senior Bowl. We got to go to the Senior Bowl. Last year, the only reason I didn't go is my two sisters blamed my wife and me and one of my sons for, her getting the virus. And so we had to stay here in Memphis, and everything turned out fine, but we didn't get to go to the Senior Bowl. And I'm telling you, I was madder than a wet hen. Molly Middleton and Jim Nagy and the great people down there, they cannot be any more helpful. So, we want to go down there to the Senior Bowl to make up for what we missed last year. And
John,
my wife's favorite thing.
He's going to set up at Radio Row, and he's going to have a backdrop that says Senior Bowl, but he's going to be sitting in Memphis.
Yeah, that's true. I think, David, what he's holding out for you to say that you're going to take him to lunch at the Duke Drop-In and then dinner at Wenzel's, and then he's
right. That's exactly it.
Hey, is Constantine's still open? Remember Constantine's that was at the hotel?
We may have a little thing at Callahan's. That'll be good. I did get a text message yesterday. They have a new batch of actually Reese's Pieces. They had the buttercup, the peanut butter cups for a while. They had no Reese's Pieces, and I prefer those. So I'm going to go get a couple of bags of those today.
Yeah, that Mobile is. God, I've got a lot of fraternity brothers and friends that live down there. Great folks like Will Johnson down there, and let's get started right now. Hey, Dave, I like to call you and John. I call him the Sultan of the Sunbelt, but he's a lifelong member of Q's Nation. Was out in Louisiana Lafayette with Billy Napier. In Mobile now. Honk when you go through the tunnel twice for David Schultz. But David, let's talk about what's left over that national championship game Monday night. The district attorney in Tarrant County, Texas, I understand is going to file assault and battery charges against Georgia. That was so ugly. I got to go back to 1995, Nebraska and Florida, 62-24. Remember? Jarquez Hunter out of Fort Valley, Georgia. Jarquez Green broke his leg on the kickoff, and it was downhill from there, 62-24. But remember what Florida did the next year? They came back, won the national championship. But your takeaways from Monday night.
I don't think that's going to happen next season for TCU. But I kind of feel like this was the Georgia team we all kind of expected to see all season long, and we just didn't do it, right? They showed up for Oregon, which was nice. They showed up for Tennessee, which was nice, and they showed up for LSU. They didn't show up against Missouri. They had to have a furious fourth quarter comeback to beat Missouri. They laid down in the second half against LSU in the SEC championship game. And Kent State, they beat by a couple of scores. So what we all expected to see from Georgia all season long is exactly what we saw in Arizona, in LA for the national championship game. And John, I still say this, based on what we saw of the starting quarterbacks, I know they were all second and third stringers this past weekend in the NFL, but you could do a lot worse than Stetson Bennett the fourth. I know whatever it is, right? And you probably know this, whatever it is, he's got it.
He absolutely does. They talk about, he may be 5'11" with pumps on, or what,
Right.
all of these things about him that are his physical shortcomings. But you're exactly right, David. He's got it. He's a winner, and obviously if you stood him side by side, even today, Herschel Walker, because I think Herschel still does all those push-ups and sit-ups and everything,
Right.
you would say, hey, this is the man and this is the boy. But
Right.
in terms of accolades and championships and things like that, Stetson Bennett put himself in rare air if there's anybody else even in that air. And it's hard to say. One analogy that I was thinking about, David, and you were spot on with that. This is an analogy you probably won't hear anywhere else.
Hey, David, John, hold those thoughts because we got to take a break. Mildred's showing me the stopwatch here, but I want you to pick up right where you're leaving off because I want to hear this analogy. And I absolutely believe Stetson Bennett will be in the NFL. I'll bet you a steamer pack of crystals and a 30 rack of Ham's beer. Back with
Put your
more
hair in the break there, Rob.
right after this.
It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, John Hartwell. You were rolling before the break. Let's go.
So here's the analogy. I'm gonna switch basketball to football and vice versa here. Kirby Smart's probably never been compared to Phil Jackson before, but what Kirby Smart had to say to Stetson Bennett right after the semifinal victory, the 42-41 win over Ohio State. He said it to Stetson Bennett, but it was a message to that entire team to say, you've got to play better. And I promise you, from that point until the final whistle Monday night in SoFi Stadium, that was in every one of those kids' heads. I mean, they did not back off the gas at all. And just like they said, the expectation was there from the beginning of the season. They raised the bar high when they just ran Oregon out of the stadium. And then they kind of sleptwalked through a handful of games. Everybody said, oh, this team's really not that good. And they put the exclamation point on it at the end of the season. But again, just like professional sports today, and I think college sports is trending more and more that way, you've got to have X's and O's, guys. You've got to have recruiters. You've got to have all those things. But you've got to have master motivators who can get inside those student athletes' heads and get the very best out of them. And clearly Kirby did that for this game.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt. And his slogan is, you're either elite or you're not. But he says you have to start finding excuses to win, per se. David Schultz, now the three-peat. They're already being picked to win it all next year.
Right. Well, that'll be one up on Saban, right? He hasn't done that.
Yeah.
In fact, he's matched now, Nick, in going back-to-back, because Nick's only gone back-to-back once. That tells you how difficult it really is.
Yeah.
And so this will be odd, John. I don't think there's anyone under more pressure in college football next year than Carson Beck, because Carson Beck is the prototypical high school, college quarterback, 6'4", 6'5", 215, 220. So he looks the part, but is he going to win? Is he going to be able to win like Stetson Bennett? If they are down at Auburn and losing to a team they should be beating, can he bring them back? What's going to happen next year at Tennessee? So they got all these 4- and 5-star quarterbacks behind Stetson Bennett, and oddly enough, you could have a 2-time championship MVP, and they could get better at the position potentially. So it'll be interesting to see. But someone said yesterday on Twitter that they could be 14-point favorites in every game they play. And John, to your point, it will be, up to Kirby to say, hey, you know what, guys, you haven't won squat this year. Last year's team won the championship. Now you guys got to do it all over again, and it's a different team. I happen to think, Rob, I don't know what you think, John. I think Alabama's going to take a step back. I think when you lose potentially the best offensive player in the nation in Bryce Young and the best defensive player in the nation, Will Anderson, it's really tough to replace them. We've seen what Alabama has not been able to do, replacing their wide receivers, the 4 guys that they had, plus Jamison Williams. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama actually loses more than 1 or 2 ball games next year. I don't think they're going to go 7-5, but I'm not sure they're going to go undefeated or lose just 1 ball game either. So we'll see who steps up in the West. Right now in the West, the only team we don't know who their quarterback is as of right now happens to be Alabama and Auburn. Everybody else has their quarterbacks basically set, from A&M going with the freshman to Jaden Daniels coming back for an umpteenth year at LSU. And so Jackson Dart, I guess, will be back at Ole Miss, and Connor Rogers at Mississippi State. So we know who those are going to be, and we'll see what happens in the East. Who's guiding that? Is it Joe Milton at Tennessee? Who actually is it? Carson Beck who's guiding Georgia? What is Billy Napier going to do at Florida? Is it Graham Mertz? From Wisconsin. So it'll be interesting to see where all these quarterbacks are and all these teams are. But Kirby's going to have his work cut out for him next year in terms of just keeping these guys motivated, because it's going to be tough if you're a junior at Georgia and you've won 2 championships.
Yeah. Well, I look around in the SEC East. Look at Will Levis this year for Kentucky. He was supposed to have a great year. Just it didn't happen. Kentucky took a step back. And you talk about Alabama. Everybody wants to say, okay, there were 5 of Alabama's 12 games this year that went down to the last play. They went 10-2, right. But they could have been 7-5 or 8-4.
Could have been. That's right.
But they went 10-2, won the bowl game.
Now could have been 12-0.
Yeah, that if they'd have been in the playoff, they'd have beaten everybody. I don't think anybody would have beat Georgia Monday night. Georgia came out with their hair on fire and played it. Look, in the first half, they scored on every possession, 5 touchdowns and 1 field goal. Now you look at Alabama. Let's focus on them. I think they're a lot closer to having a starting quarterback, because I think it's going to be Ty Simpson. It may be Jalen Milroe, kid out of Texas. Ty Simpson's father is the coach at UT Martin. He's from Martin, Tennessee. But running backs, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought he's gone. I mean, I think he'd be really good. Trey Sanders is gone. He has had an injury-riddled career. But I think, you take, in my opinion, the most valuable player in college football is Stetson Bennett IV. The best player, hands down, Bryce Young. Somehow Caleb Williams got the Heisman, but Hollywood and guys that paint their fingernails, I guess they'll get a lot of attention. But I think you're right about Alabama. They've got a lot of work. It's a great recruiting class. But if you're counting on true freshmen to pull you out of a hole, you're in trouble.
Well, John, that's where it comes down to A&M, right? Because, and I knew that was going to be a problem for A&M in Miami when, Jimbo's bringing in this great recruiting class. I'm like, well, that's going to get conflated with being a great football team when they are an 18-year-old freshman, and that doesn't work very often. Same with Cristobal at Miami, and he's got a great recruiting class coming in for next season. But somewhere along the way, Jimbo's recruiting class got to step up, right? Somewhere along the way, because he's had 3 top 5 recruiting classes, somewhere along the way, that's got to step up. We know we got Bobby Petrino in here, and SEC Media Days 2023 cannot come soon enough. We need that tomorrow, and so it'll be interesting to see what A&M does. Because talk about somebody on the hot seat. Jimbo is on the hot seat, and you can't go 8-4 or 9-3. I mean, guys, they They barely, and I know it was a rainy day and nobody was there, but while Alabama was, who were they struggling with? Was it Austin Peay? They were struggling with Austin Peay at home. A&M were struggling with UMass.
Yep.
UMass won like one ball game this year, and that was against Stony Brook. Yeah, they were struggling with a bad FCS team. All right, and so got a lot of guys who transferred out of A&M. I know they got another good recruiting class. He did a great job between the end of the season and signing day. He'll probably get some more guys in there coming up. But no, as much pressure as there on Carson Beck, no coach is under more pressure than Jimbo Fisher.
No doubt. But there's a little comfort there knowing he's got money in the bank, literally. I mean, if you look at a per win, what you paid for Jimbo Fisher, he's got a heck of a gig if you can get that. But I think it goes back again, guys, to in today's world, it's not just about recruiting freshmen, keeping them happy. It's the guys who can, it's the coaches, and this is not just football. This is every sport in college, primarily football, men's and women's basketball, and to some extent baseball. But the ability to build a roster, it's not through, necessarily 100% freshmen all the way through seniors. It's how do you take your returning players, you sprinkle in some freshmen because you got to have some young guys you develop, and then go into the transfer portal, and developing chemistry it's going to get tougher and tougher. And that's where I give Kirby credit is not only did he have the most talented team in the country, he clearly did some things internally from a chemistry standpoint to develop them. And I think a lot of that goes, you've got to have, coaches can talk to their blue in the mouth. You've got to have player-driven leadership. You got to have guys like Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers and guys like that who, the coach can establish credibility and accountability, but until you have a teammate who can take you by the jersey, because the coach can't do that anymore, and say, you're going to play, or let's get the next guy up to do it. And clearly they did a great job of that.
Rob, you want an example of what John's talking about? We can give you an example of what John's talking about. You know who doesn't have any team chemistry right now? Kentucky basketball.
No.
All right. They don't like Calipari, and they don't like each other. And you can clearly see that on the court. And there's an issue with that. I don't know if it's because, Oscar got his NIL deal to stay there, or, he's his own kind of dude. But you can clearly see, it's one thing losing to a really good Alabama team, although by a wide margin. It's another thing to lose at home to South Carolina. All right. That's something. That's not like any given night. All right. I don't want to hear one. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. That's something that should not happen. And it did.
Hey, they're playing give and go basketball. It's give me the ball, and I'll keep it PG since we're on a family show here. Give me the ball and go to the other end because I'm jacking it up.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, another way to look at Kentucky basketball fans and their relationship, the way they feel about John Calipari, is a couple that's in the waning days and moments of a marriage. They walk by each other in the hall, and we know what that is all about. That's what that is. And what was the crowd last night? That was pathetic. I mean, for what you're used to at Rupp Arena.
Ended up being, I saw a picture of it early in the game. I thought the crowd filled in.
Well,
I don't think it was as empty as it looked before game.
But here's a South Carolina team that got drilled by Tennessee. Goes on the road to Rupp. And then Kentucky had won 28 in a row. Yeah. And now Auburn has got 27 in a row. Auburn got that nice win on the road at Ole Miss last night. And Kermit Davis is one of my favorite coaches because my good friend Gordon Ford, who does the show with us a lot, has known. I first heard about Kermit in 1988 when he was at Idaho State out in Moscow, Idaho. But bottom line, Kentucky basketball and A&M football are in the same boat. They paid
the
buyout, I thought about the lifetime contract.
No. Those two things do not belong in. Stop. What are you talking about? A&M.
How many national champions?
No.
Championships are in.
A&M hasn't won anything in anything ever, and Kentucky basketball is Kentucky basketball. All right, stop with the whole I understand when you're talking about the coaching thing, but don't compare those two programs.
No, that's not what I meant at all. So
no.
I'm talking
John,
about
this is where we think Rob Browne has hit his head when he got out of bed.
But I'm talking about the buyout. When you've got that massive buyout, and you're like you're saying, what are the optics of this if we were to get rid of him and have to pay him 70 or 80 million like the thing with Jimbo? The problem with A&M is I think that $25 million figure we heard last year about NIL at A&M and that number one recruiting class with 7 or 8 5-stars I think that was spread out over 5 years. And I think those kids got there, wanted their money up front and didn't get it. And from that point on, morale and dissension and everything went south in the locker room, as evidenced by those 3 players who really screwed up in the locker room on the road at South Carolina right before kickoff. Jimbo got rid of them. But, look, every
what were they
coach,
doing, Rob?
I don't think they were playing checkers.
Rob, what were they doing?
They were doing something stupid. They were doing something stupid. Allegedly, I think they were playing tic-tac-toe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it doesn't look good when you have to get rid of guys right before kickoff. I think you're right about A&M. A&M has a ton of money, and they want for nothing. And maybe that's the problem. Did you ever hear the story about sometimes you give people everything they want in sales and they still can't sell because they're lazy. I think it's too nice at A&M. I think you can make it too easy and be a snowplow parent or a snowplow program and make it too damn easy for these kids. I want them hungry. I'm not saying
Rob wants to go back to the Junction Boys. That's what Rob wants.
Well, no, I don't think that. No,
what he wants to go. He wants to go all Coach Boone. Water is for the weak.
Now that was Wally
Water
Butts
is
at
for
Georgia.
the blood that you get on the uniforms, and you don't get blood on my uniform.
Yeah, Wally Butts at Georgia didn't allow you to drink water in practice. I'm just saying we've got to be careful of making it about the football palace versus the results.
But they all have
field.
that. Alabama.
I know they do.
Football palace. Auburn
I know they do.
One up. Georgia opened one up. Clemson has one. Michigan has one. Ohio State. That's.
But I just want to see results. I want to see the wins. And if you look at Kevin Sumlin's first 5 years compared to Jimbo Fisher's, Kevin Sumlin had more wins on the road and at home against top 10 and top 25 teams than Jimbo has. Yeah. And he got a lot less money. That's the problem.
Well, right.
Look,
I mean, something intelligent. Good job, Rob.
Well, what I'm saying though is an athletic director, and John, you know this, you almost have a loaded gun at your head going, we got to lock this guy up because if I let him get away, but all that happens is these agents will go out there and float some stuff out there, then everybody hears it and your phone's ringing off the wall and you're going, we got to lock him up, whatever he wants. And then you have buyer's remorse. And I think that's what A&M has.
Hey, Rob, I've said this before on your show. The guy down the street from you there in Memphis, Jimmy Sexton, is playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. I mean, he has got the magic formula. And the thing is, as long as one school is doing it, as long as one school continues to up the ante, everybody else is going to follow suit. And, in a perfect world, in the sales world where you get commissions, you get a small base and then you're incentivized to be successful. You're incentivized to win.
Yeah.
But that's, Jimmy is playing some of these athletic directors and betting on the come, and the come never comes in some cases in terms of these coaching contracts. Hey, I want to go back briefly for just a second because we started kind of this segment talking about basketball, talking about Auburn's win at Ole Miss, which was a really good win. But you talk about Kermit Davis. You talk about SEC basketball hot seats potentially. Kermit may be there. Great guy. Comes from a basketball family, had tremendous success at Middle Tennessee. But if you look at his record at Ole Miss, it's actually not as good as Andy Kennedy's was. And I think Andy Kennedy is a heck of a basketball coach.
I do too.
He really is. UAB.
He's doing really well.
But for whatever reason, and I was there for 10 years, and Ole Miss is a tough place to win. People used to say, oh, you can't recruit to the Tad Smith Coliseum. They've got a nice new facility.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do something here down the stretch, else I think Kermit's going to be on the hot seat as well.
Yeah, hold those
Rob,
thoughts. We'll come
right.
back. We got to take a quick break, and I want Dave, when we come back, to get your answer on that. Then let people know how they follow you. But Mildred shows me the old stopwatch over here, and I got to do it. But yeah, SEC basketball back in 2014 when the SEC network came on, Mike Slive said, "Ramp up your programs." We'll talk more about it right after this.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959, right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
All right, David Schultz talking in SEC basketball, and
well, actually, I want to pull a Hartwell here by going back because he mentioned Jimmy Sexton, and I brought this up with you, Rob. It's not only what the coaches are doing, but the players are learning Jimmy Sexton. And I think we brought this up before. Austin Reed from Western Kentucky went in the transfer portal, and all of a sudden he ends up back at Western Kentucky because Louisville and Purdue and some other places, didn't fit what he was looking for. When you know it, he ended up with a big NIL deal.
Yep.
A huge NIL deal at Western Kentucky, and he went back. He pulled a Jimmy Sexton. I'm going to leave and take my 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns with me. But all of a sudden I get maybe a high five, low six-figure deal. I'm going back to Bowling Green. Maybe got a Corvette in that deal as well. But
a Corvette.
Some of these players are catching on to what Jimmy Sexton's doing.
A Corvette, some of that brown liquid, and I'm not talking about the oil and gas from Texas. I'm talking about the bourbon from Kentucky.
Yes, I got plenty of that. That could be that's a good idea too.
David, look, I agree with you about what's going on. I think these players are. I mean, Jimmy Sexton used to work down on the 5th floor, and I was on the 6th floor back at Regensburg and Keegan Athletic Resources Management. He and his partner Kyle Rote Jr. For a long time, and I would see, Calipari, you name them, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, coming and going all the time. Bottom line, they have learned how to do it. And someone's going to have to call the bluff on one of these guys and say, you want to leave? Go. See what happens.
Well, all right. Well, okay.
That'll be a fun one. And then
you
let that guy. Yeah, I know.
Depending on who it is.
Yeah. I agree with you. David, look, let people know how they can follow you. You got a daily show down there in Mobile. And tell them the date of the Senior Bowl coming up.
Date of the Senior Bowl is February 4th. All right. We're still the odds have gone up from minus 1,500 to minus 2,000 that Rob still won't show up. He won't be here. He'll come up with some sort of another COVID excuse. And so we'll see. Also, Rob, we need to let you know it's Supercuts, not awful cuts. All right. I'm gonna send you a $30 gift certificate to Supercuts. Just start again. You got to start again, man.
Yeah.
Something happened. It didn't go well. Start again. It will grow back. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
I'm with you. I look like Shemp from the Three Stooges. But anyway, let people know how they can follow you. We'll get you.
Yeah, I'm on WNSP.com, Sports Radio 105.5, WNSP. You can follow me at SchultzCast, Locked On Sunbelt as well. Rob, not often do you get a Mobile native and somebody living in Mobile on the same show.
Hey, it's a double Mobile day and oysters at Wenzel's when we get down there. But anyway, David, thank you so much for being on here with us. I love you. The players have gone Sexton. That's what you're right. That's the takeaway, man. Thank you so much. Let's do it again next week.
Thanks, guys.
See you, David.
Okay. You bet. I tell you, John, you and I've talked about it. Jimmy Sexton's just doing what he's paid to do by his clients, going out there and representing them. Kyle Rote Jr. sat on Sidelines with us a couple of years ago when he was a guest on here. He actually spoke at my 2nd or 3rd grade sports banquet at Presbyterian Day School in Memphis. And I remembered it. And he goes, how the hell could you remember that? Because it was a great speech. But Kyle wrote when he was 16, turned professional as a soccer player from Dallas. You know, his father, Kyle Rote Sr., wrote that great football yearbook for years. And Kyle Rote Jr. said when his dad played for the Giants, they used to come home to Memphis in the summer and spend a lot of time in Memphis. And Charlie Connolly and some of these great Ole Miss quarterbacks were from the Delta down in Clarksdale, Coahoma County, home of Abe's Barbecue. You ever had a Big Abe?
Oh, yeah.
God, Pat Davis
Real
and the great
stuff.
people there. Oh, my God. And the Rest Haven. You can't beat that for breakfast. I mean, I love the Mississippi Delta. And but I got to say, John, that's what Jimmy Sexton's paid to do as an athletic director. Before we go to Coach John Brady in just a minute, how hard is that to do when that mythical booster that we talk so much about, Foghorn Leghorn, says, why, John, this here is Foghorn Leghorn. I'm over here at the lumberyard, and I say, son, how we doing today? I'm going to come by there today, and we're going to talk about that coach of ours we got. He's in the choir with my wife over there at the church house, and we got to lock him up forever. He's a good man. Well, but we've gone 7-5 3 years in a row. Well, he's a good man, and I know you need some money for that new facility, and I'm going to bring my checkbook with me. What do you say to that when Foghorn is like, I'm coming, I'm bringing my checkbook, and I've got an agenda? A guy like you, I think, has a plan. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you've got to stay the course. Now, that is easier said than done sometimes, and a lot of it, again, an athletics director is only as strong and as powerful as their president. If the president, if you hold your course and say, hey, Mr. Leghorn, you know, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But you've got to look at the big picture. You may be a real estate tycoon. You may be an oil and gas tycoon. You may just be part of the lucky sperm club that your fortune comes from. But you are not in college athletics day in, day out, every day, and understand the dynamics of the big picture. You are thinking with your heart and not with your mind. And we love that passion, but you've got to look big picture. And if you get yourself in a deal, you know, and I'll go back, I don't care what career path you're in, a 10-year contract to me is crazy. So many variables and things that can happen in 10 years. 5-6 years, yes, you've got to do because that's the market. But a 10-year contract, I don't care how good you are. Too many things can change in 10 years that just don't make 10-year contracts make sense.
All right, and in Mississippi, now you were at Ole Miss from 2003 to 2012, 10 years as deputy AD. They've got the 4-year limit. You can only sign a 4-year contract with a 1-year renewable option. Again, you're not like most athletic directors, John. Your background is private accounting. You worked for E&Y for a while, 4 or 5 years. That's like saying you were in an elite accounting unit, not an elite military unit, but you did graduate from the Citadel, and you're very familiar with Foghorn Leghorn, so you're smart. I like that model. Now, the flirtation with Lane Kiffin and Auburn with Kiffin, whether it was real or not, it may have been the Sextonization of college football, just on full display. But I like that. Remember when Notre Dame locked in Charlie Weiss to that 10-year deal? Charlie Weiss got to Notre Dame, and Brady Quinn was there those first couple of years. One of my Notre Dame friends, his quote was, Charlie Weiss is the smartest man in college football. And then next thing you know, he's out of there, and he's gained so much weight. I mean, he looked like Minnesota Fats over there on the sidelines as offensive coordinator for Florida. He couldn't stand. He had to sit on a cooler. Remember Coach Dye talking about him saying he'd gotten so big he has to sit on a cooler. Or nowadays he'd have a scooter probably, like when you go to Walmart. You watch out for that wreck at aisle 7 and aisle 3 next to glass eyeballs. But I go back, and John, it's a tough call to make. But we got the coach John Brady from Macomb, Mississippi on here right now. Coach Brady, I've got a guy you recruited. He said he still wants to come for his official visit at Mississippi State. John Hartwell from Mobile, from UMS, and he said, "Oh my goodness, he recruited me when he was at Mississippi State." But John is on with us a lot now on Sidelines. So first off, welcome. Happy New Year to Coach Brady, and love having you on here talking college basketball. Your insight is invaluable, just like John Hartwell.
Well, John Hartwell's a stud, baby. You got a good one. You got a good one on there. Shoot. He became.
How you doing, John? I don't think you and I have been together since we were sitting behind home plate with the Pump Brothers at Dodger Stadium.
That's exactly right. That was a lot of fun. I just happened to stumble up on. I wasn't invited like you. I just kind of stumbled on the party. They let me in.
Man, hey, let's talk some college basketball. And I'd forgotten about. You were at Mississippi State. You've got such a great resume, just like John does, college basketball, and it's getting so popular in the SEC. And I go back to when Mike Slive back in 2014. When the SEC network was on the way, he said, look, we got to fill a lot of airtime. We've got to have a quality product. And everybody in this league has really ramped it up in basketball. I like what you're doing at LSU. John Hartwell, Coach Brady is the color analyst on the LSU basketball network. And you know what? You bring in a coach from Murray. A lot of guys leave. There's a lot of transition. But so far, you like what you're seeing?
Well, I do. The problem we're having now is we struggle to score, and if you only can get 62 points a game in league play, like we're averaging, or 61, it makes the other phases of the game way important. If you're scoring 78 or 80, you've got some leeway in there defensively. You don't have to rebound it as well. But if you don't score it, your rebounding's got to be really good. Your transition defense, you can't put teams on the line. You can't foul carelessly or needlessly. A lot of things you have to do extremely well, and that's our problem right now. And we're not shooting it well. But but one thing about LSU fans, they're not patient. We've got 10 new players. We've got our best player, Adam Miller, arguably. Didn't even play last year with a torn knee that transferred from Illinois. So we've got an entirely new team, and it's just going to take a little bit of time. But, the problem you have with this portal, these transfers, and we've talked about that a bunch.
Yeah.
Let's say LSU right now, we've got 11 new players. And let's say we go through a year and our year doesn't turn out real well. You may have 8 or 9 check out, and you may get 9 or 10 more and have a new team sometimes every year. So that's the drawback to some of this. I think all teams are going to be in transition every single year because of the transfer with no penalty.
Well, I got to ask you this, John Hartwell, and what about a player at the Citadel or VMI? Can you go into the portal from there? I can't imagine you could.
Hey, VMI had a guy last year, I believe, who was like the second leading scorer. Well, I'll tell you this. There's a kid from UMS, speaking of UMS in Mobile, that played his first 2 years at VMI, who is now a starting guard at the University of Florida. Trey Bonham is his name.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about it, but John, jump in here, because this I can't imagine if you have an investment firm and you lose 90% of your sales force. That's your distribution vehicle to take a new bond issue and $1 billion or $500 million, whatever it is. I mean, both of y'all are coaches and athletic director. That would I don't know how you sleep at night.
Well, see, John, here, the discussion we were having earlier, and hats off to Kirby Smart, because I think being a coach at the collegiate level now is becoming more and more like being a professional coach. Not only do you have to be, you got to have X's and O's guys, but you got to be a psychiatrist, a philosopher, all of those things. I mean, I equated Kirby Smart to Phil Jackson, because when Phil was so successful, I mean, it was not so much. I mean, obviously he had talented guys, but to get that group of guys, the chemistry right amongst them, and then to be able to figure out which buttons to push to motivate them. I mean, it's like you said, with the transfer portal and NIL money and all of those things, it is becoming more and more of a challenge.
Well, I think Nick Saban, who I think is the best football coach or best coach and he can win in anything that he wants to coach. He's ahead of this thing a little bit. I like what he says. He presents the challenge to the player. He doesn't care why they come to Alabama, where they love the university, they want to be part of the team, or they want to go pro. They want to be a professional. You're not going to be successful unless you get yourself in a situation where you're creating value for yourself, the way you conduct yourself and the way you play. And that's the way to sell these guys on even playing in the bowl game. The more value you can create for yourself by how you perform and how you play, the more you're going to get in return, the more money you're going to make. And I think that's a great approach to appeal with those high-level players. And you know, Alabama had guys come back and play in the bowl game. Kirby Smart's on that same page. Create value for yourself, the way you conduct yourself, the way you go to class, the way you handle your teammates, the way you respond to coaching, and the way you play and perform. And if you do those things and create enough value, you get the draft choice you want, you make the money you want to make. But if you don't do those things and don't create value, you've got no shot to be as successful as you'd like to be.
John, Brady, Coach, I got to ask you this. I've brought this idea up this week several times about all these NIL collectives out there. You choose the school. Let's just say it's Auburn or LSU or Ole Miss. You've got this collective. Now, obviously, a quarterback or running back may make a lot more money than a lineman, but we know how important linemen are, because if you don't have them, can't run, can't do anything. I've proposed this idea back in April of 2018. I got the idea from talking with a former Auburn quarterback who was coming back to grad school to get his master's. And I said, man, what would you think about an endowment fund here at Auburn for student athletes, postgraduate scholarship funding, and build up that fund? How powerful a recruiting tool would that be? Now, let's fast forward it to, because I'm in my 33rd year in private client group wealth management, our team. What about a pension of NIL money? Pool that money together. They're getting cost of attendance. They're getting a lot of things, but that money, if you graduate, you hit these certain benchmarks, and you as a coach, and John, you as an AD and a student athlete, both of y'all are, you hit certain benchmarks. All of a sudden you graduate at age 25 or 30, whatever, like an age banded trust, you're eligible to tap into that pension like the NFL. I think if you do 5 years in the NFL, you've got that pension for life. Otherwise, you think about a kid that has a 5-year NFL career and he's 27 years old. Has he put enough money aside investment-wise and savings to live comfortably another 60 or 70 years? That's the question. But do you think that they would go for an NIL pension? I'm not talking about socialism, because sooner or later you run out of other people's money to piss away. I'm talking about a pension to where, based on you hitting those benchmarks, you're eligible. I think that could be good for retention. And also in the contract for NIL, you will play in every game while you were at school, bowl games included, because all games matter. Unless they're giving away the tickets and paying for your hotels and food and airfare, they matter.
Hey, let me say this. You just told me I'm from Macomb, Mississippi, which I am, and I went to the public school in Macomb, Mississippi.
Time out. Hold that thought. All right. We're going to be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we're heading over. John Hartwell, maybe you can answer that question. I know Coach Brady and y'all, the two of y'all together, are going to come up with a great answer.
Hey, don't let Coach Brady sandbag you like that. He's got all the answers.
He is a very smart man. He got to the Final Four, I can tell you that.
Well, you got to have good players to do that. I had a couple of those.
Yeah. Well, John, what about that pension idea? It's something, because as a fan, I want to see something done to where quitting on your team is just absolutely unacceptable. It's just, to me, it's unacceptable.
I think you're going to see a continued evolution towards more and more benefits, i.e. money for student athletes. But like we talked about the other day, whether it's the CFP expansion from 4 to 12, which I'm absolutely for, I think you're going to have to take a portion of that money and incentivize the student athletes playing that are on those 12 teams. I think at some point you're going to see something similar with the NCAA tournament. I'll be interested to hear John's perspective on this. I am not a proponent. I think 68 is a good number. I think the whole push to go to 90 or whatever that number is, I think what that is I think the motivation behind that is to satisfy the 32 automatic bids from some of those lower level conferences, while at the same time being able to put more Power 5 schools in there. I think it dilutes it when you get to that many schools. I think 68 is probably a good number, but I do think you're going to have to see going forward a portion of that money that's made from the NCAA basketball tournament to go to those kids participating. And then obviously it incentivizes kids, whether it's in the CFP games or the NCAA tournament. You don't see near as many, guys saying, hey, I'm not going to play in the NCAA tournament. You don't see that like you do in football. But I do think there's got to be a portion of that increased revenue that goes to the student athletes.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. I agree with that. But, if you go 68, go 72, you go whatever the number is, there's going to always people complain, well, we should have got in. We should have got in. So you can't, unless you just let everybody in, and I'm certainly not for that. But the other thing, in terms of a TV thing, CBS, when are you going to squeeze these games in? Because they're not going to move the Masters tournament. I mean, in the next weekend, they're playing the Masters, and they that's a pretty strong group of fellas you're dealing with there.
Yeah.
So I don't see how you get a number in if you increase it. That's the other thing of the coin. But I agree with John about the revenue sharing and all of that sort of thing. And I think that's a discussion at the administrative level that they're going to have and try to get this thing under control. I'm not for a player deciding to come to a school because they pay him the most money. That seems kind of, I mean, it's good for players, but it's shallow to me. There's a lot more things going on in an 18, 19-year-old's life than just base a decision on how much money you can give me to come to this particular school. And for some reason, and I'm an old school guy, right? I'm a retired basketball coach. It's hard for me to get my arms around just that reason to go to a particular university to play basketball, football, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. John, Brady, coach, got to ask you, SEC basketball, up to this point, you get to see LSU every game play another SEC team now. What's the league look like at this point compared to the same time last year? Because a lot of people during the season felt it was a historically great year. But once we got to the tournament, the Elite Eight, Arkansas was the only team standing. The ACC had 3 teams in there: Duke, North Carolina, and Miami?
Well, I think, my opinion, I don't think the league has really got off to a great start. Anytime Kentucky is not the best team in the SEC, it seems to me the league's not as strong top to bottom. I don't know why. But, Arkansas is good. I'm not sure they can score it enough to be elite. Auburn is the same way. They're athletic, but can they score it enough to be elite? I think the two best teams right now are Alabama and Tennessee. Yeah. Alabama can score it. They can shoot it. They can play slow. They can play fast. Tennessee defensively is as good as any, and and Rick Barnes, to me, may be one of the better coaches in the league in terms of putting his team in a position to score the ball offensively. After Alabama and Tennessee, I think there's some maybes that may be good, but time will tell as we move through the league. And then there's a group of about 6 or 7 that are just in a wad, and you don't know where they're going to fall out. But Kentucky losing at home to South Carolina, that's disappointing to me. And I think when Kentucky is not in the top 10 in the country, it puts a reflection on the SEC that maybe the league's not as good. I don't see it being balanced. I see only 2 teams right now that I think are elite in the way they've been playing is Alabama and Tennessee, with Arkansas, Auburn, and a question mark by even Missouri. They strolled into Kansas and got it handed to them pretty good. So I'm not sure where the SEC ranks in terms of being the top or one of the top 2 conferences in the country at this moment.
Looking at Kentucky, and both of y'all have talked about the fact that they're not a top 10 program right now, and they've got all the talent in the world. And we've mentioned this, that last year when St. Peter's beat them in the NCAA tournament, went to overtime, there were 8 players on Kentucky's team that had NIL deals in excess of $200,000. That was the salary that the coach for St. Peter's was making at the time, was right at $200,000. I've never had a wealthy family dump $5 or $10 or $20 million into an 18-year-old kid. They always be age banded and incentive-based trust. If you want to know what the incentive-based trust is, it's what it is. As the guy said when he was pulling the arrow out of his chest in Braveheart, that'll wake you up in the morning, but that'll get you out of bed in the morning to go to work. And I think you can't pay people, in my opinion, before they've done anything. And I think it's and Oscar Tshiebwe, one of my favorite players in all of college basketball. When Kentucky lost to St. Peter's, guys, last year, I saw 2 players who were visibly upset after that loss. Man, you ought to be distraught after a loss. Just mad, going, it's one thing to get beat. It's another thing to stay beat. And I've always, from the best people I've ever competed against in anything, they're 21-time national champions. We canoe race a lot. My canoe race partner and I, ironbowlracing.com. And Dale Burris said, you'll learn as much from the people that beat you as you will from the people that you beat, if you'll keep calm right after competition. But Coach Brady, if you were the head coach of Kentucky right now with this talent, what's the first team meeting going to be like?
Probably 3 or 4 of them would quit. I don't know.
See, I like that.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to really gauge how you coach a guy making that kind of money when he maybe hadn't even made a basket or proved himself worthy of the money you're paying him. They say, well, the coach makes $8-9 million. Well, his first coaching job, he didn't make squat.
That's right.
He earned the right to get paid what the market allows by what he's accomplished.
Yep.
And I think there's a whole different argument when you talk about, well, if the coach can do this, why can't the player? Well, it's not the same argument. It's not even the same ballpark, in my opinion. So I'm not sure. My friend Tim Floyd and I joke all the time that the way we tried to coach, pretty straightforward, that they'd come back from a 3-4 day Christmas break and we'd be the only guy in the locker room. They'd all checked out and transferred. So, and that's not a nice, but that's just a fact, and that's a little over exaggeration to a degree. But I think I think coaching today, you've got to like John said, you've got to be wear a lot of hats to coach today, but I do think there are some things on a quality team that are uncompromising for it to be successful. Care, concern, fair, applied, consistent discipline, challenging players from time to time. And it goes back to what Nick Saban said. You got to create value for yourself by how you handle the situation you're in and how you respond to things. And sometimes responding to things by transferring is not the right way to approach it. And I just wish there was some limitations on having the ability to transfer to another program when things maybe not are going your way, and when they get bad advice from outside. All the people are telling, they always want to blame the coach for the lack of progress of a player. Well, sometimes you got to blame the player. And I think John Calipari is an outstanding basketball coach. But I think, have you ever seen a parent in a grocery store or somewhere trying to discipline a spoiled child, and they refuse to do what you tell them to do, and they throw a fit? Well, I think to a degree, you start paying a lot of players a lot of money when they haven't earned it. They can become like spoiled children and don't play as well as they should. So the character of the young man creating value for himself, as the quarterback of Alabama explained after the bowl game, I think those type of individuals are the ones you lay your hat on and you want on your team.
Oh, Will Anderson and Bryce Young. I'm an Auburn grad saying this in the interest of full disclosure, two of my favorite players in college football. I love them. Will Anderson, look, guys, I got two older sisters, and they're still treat me like the gum on the bottom of their shoe. I love them, but he's got 5 older sisters, Will Anderson. That's why he's so tough. But it starts at home with parenting. But I'll tell you another thing. You're right. I hear this over and over. The 18 and 19-year-olds, well, if the coaches can make it, well, they can. Well, you go back and you talk to coaches. Even an example like Steve Spurrier, his first staff in 1990 at Florida, the entire assistant coaching staff together, their salaries combined $460,000. Now that's what you pay the linebacker coach alone. And then another one is, I had a wealthy client of mine one time who had a 19-year-old son, and he said, I want this and I want that. And he said, hold on a second. He goes, Dad, you've got 9 cars and 4 condominiums and Harleys and all this stuff. He goes, that's right. I do. All you got is 3 years of college left. So that's on you. But it's called the chain of command. And you got to realize that. I mean, you think back to pivotal moments in your life, the coaches that we've had, both of y'all I call coaches, because an AD is a coach, and Coach Brady, you've been to the Final Four, is the coaches that grab you, call it old school or whatever you want. I went to Catholic education at Christian Brothers High School. I got disciplined a few times. Okay. But it toughened me up. It just said, hey, when somebody pushes, push back, but you better listen and you better follow the chain of command. If at my age, if I'm talking to an older person, I'm saying yes, sir, or no, sir, even at my age, because that's the way I was brought up. And there's nothing wrong with being old school. And coach, I wish you were still coaching. I mean, I love your attitude, the way you do. Look, we kept you long. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but I love talking. This is one of the best sessions we've ever had. And maybe you're going to get back into coaching. You're not very old.
What? Well, hey, John knows how old I am. I'm 68 years old. I'm in a good place. I like doing what I'm doing, but
I know
it's a different world, a different game, but I do think you can still challenge players if you have the right type of players and they understand what you're trying to do and where they're trying to go, and y'all get on the same page.
Yeah.
This is what we've got to do for your sake and mine. This is where you want to go. This is what I want to do. We're trying to get to the same place. So let's do this thing together. I think there's something value in that, but you got to have the right kind of character on the other end.
Yeah. The coaches that were the toughest on me as a kid and teachers in school, Coach Reed, we loved Billy Canali, the great Canali family at CBHS. That man was tough as nails. And then later on, his kids helped us coach track and field, but he was revered. Coach Tom Nix, the football coach, never once ever mentioned he won the Silver Star for bravery at Iwo Jima as United States Marine. Never once mentioned it. I didn't find out till right before he passed away because I'd see him at Mass every day. But Coach, I'll tell you what, I love having you on here. Tell people how they can follow you and look forward to having you on next week if you can take the time to do it.
You always ask me that, and I have no idea.
You got to get him a business card he can just hold up in front of the camera.
BR 549 Junior.
My face come on this interview here. I punch a bunch of buttons and happen to work out.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much, and we'll do it again next week talking college basketball. Appreciate it.
John, always good to see you, man. Much
Yeah,
success,
great to see you as well. I'm gonna try to catch you somewhere on the road this year. I'll give you a shout.
I appreciate that. Do it, man.
All right.
All right.
See you guys. All right.
Thanks so much. You think about that. 39 years ago, Coach Brady was recruiting you, John Hartwell, and that relationship 39 years later, the minute you saw he was going to be on this morning, you were like, bam, got it. That is awesome. We got Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covers Georgia for us right now. Jordan, are you still out there in Hollywood where the Georgia Bulldogs just scored again? It's 173-7, national champions. Man, we had you on Monday talking about previewing the game. I thought it'd take a full 60. It took a full 12 minutes, and it was over.
Yeah, I got a lot of grief from our message board because I kept saying, well, I think Georgia's going to win, but they're not going to be able to name their score. And, yeah, they were. And, there were the signs, honestly, and it was pointed out, at Media Day, they had both teams come in one at a time. But you saw TCU, they came in first. And you just kind of looked around and you're like, these guys aren't very big. And then obviously Georgia comes in and we've been around the Bulldogs all year. But yeah, I mean, it was a situation where, as soon as TCU came out, they had the ball first, very first play, false start. You could kind of tell, I think maybe the moment was a little big for them, what have you. But then, they played probably a C- game and Georgia played an A+ game. And I still can't get over the fact that was the biggest margin of victory in bowl history. Think about how long the bowls have been around. And that was for and that was for the national championship. I've never seen anything like that. I never in my wildest dreams thought that would play out the way it did. But credit to Georgia for getting the job done.
Well, Larry Munson, the ghost of Larry Munson, just said, my God, we missed an extra point. We could have had 66. I don't know why. Lauren, what do you got? Who was the long snapper there? What went wrong? I'm worried. We got to get a long snapper. Well, Larry, Georgia's up 65-7 here, and the Dogs are going crazy here. I bet you what, Lauren Smith, I was texting with Lauren Smith after that game, and the Georgia contingent out there showed up, and it was awesome. We'll talk more right after this. John Hartwell, I know you got to go. See you tomorrow.
Jordan, see ya. Thanks, guys.
Good to see you, John.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back with Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. And I just got a couple of pictures. I saw it earlier in the week when Delta dedicated the 747 to legendary Georgia coach Vince Dooley. I thought that was just a first-class act. And then here's a picture of the streets of Athens, Georgia. It looks like the wee hours of Tuesday morning. Jordan, I mean, are they still celebrating? Are you back yet? Or are you still out in California?
Yeah, I'm still back in California. I'm flying back tonight, and I called my fiance just to make sure our house was still standing because it looked like total pandemonium. Luckily, we're not downtown. If you had some property downtown, I hope you had State Farm or Progressive. Somebody had that thing insured because it might have taken a dent.
Well, Larry Munson famously said after Lindsey Scott scored against Florida in 1980, man, you think about all those dog people up there on St. Simons and Jekyll Island, those condos rented for 4 and 5 days. Man, is some property going to be destroyed tonight. I bet that applies to some couch burnings and some hell raising in Athens right now. And probably, hey, well-deserved, though. You went back-to-back national champions. Somebody on Twitter last week, and I mentioned it to you and Tony Barnhart, asked a question. Is Georgia a blue blood in college football? And after I noticed the absence of the cerebral cortex in this individual's brain as a living brain donor, I was like, of course they are. What do you call them now? They did something that in the modern era, a quarterback, Jerry Taggy, I think, at Nebraska, 71-72, 74-75, the late Steve Davis at Oklahoma, 03-04, Matt Leinart, Southern Cal, 11-12, A.J. McCarron, St. Paul's Episcopal out of Mobile at Alabama, and now Stetson Bennett the fourth, Blackshear, Georgia. And his buddy Martin at GatorBetMedia.com said the other day, they were throwing rocks at him, shoo, go away, get out of here. And he came back. I mean, this guy, if he doesn't make it in the NFL, which I believe he will, he ought to be a sales manager somewhere. Hey, man, no means tell me more. This guy's an incredible story. Have you started writing your book on him yet?
Not yet. But there's no shortage of material. And it's funny, he the close of his career at Georgia, I'd have to say, couldn't have gone any better. I mean, he gets the come from behind win, which I'm sure he would have rather it been a lot easier against Ohio State. And then they just, again, like we said a few minutes ago, named the score against TCU to win it all. I wrote about before the year that, a lot of people thought he should leave. And I kind of compared it to somebody sitting at a poker table in Vegas and just staying there. He winds up getting up, he gets ready to walk away, and someone goes, why don't you play another hand? And then he's like, you know what? All right, yeah, I will. And it's like, well, you take a risk in doing that. But, I mean, he did it. Credit to him. And, Kirby talked about it after the game that, he didn't go with the mainstream. He said Stetson went to him after last year and said, all these people are saying I should leave, and I don't get it. I can come back and win another one. And, I think, I had my doubts they would win it again. I had them going undefeated in the regular season. I had them losing Alabama. But, I mean, they were just up for the moment. They had inexperienced talent, but it was talent nonetheless. And those guys rose to the occasion. And we're sitting here talking about them winning back-to-back, the first time any team has done that since Alabama in 2011, 2012. Tremendous story, and they couldn't have done it without Stetson Bennett.
We talked earlier in the first hour with David Schultz, WNSP in Mobile, and talked about Carson Beck, the pressure he's going to have next year. He is the prototypical guy, 6'4", 215, 220. I think he's out of Jacksonville, was a 5-star quarterback. Look, I know when he came in, it was late. The game wasn't in play, but he does look the part. But the most important 6 inches on the football field, I think you would agree, are between your ears. Anything about him that reminds you, I'm not trying to be unfair to compare, but that does remind you of Stetson Bennett early in his career?
It's too soon to tell, to be honest. And, I think it'll be a situation. I do think he's the favorite to win that job, but he's going to have to win it. Brock Vandegrift's really talented. Gunnar Stockton, who was a true freshman. But whoever wins that job is going to be set up pretty well early in the year. These are 3 of the first 4 games. At home against UT Martin, at home against Ball State. Then they do host South Carolina, so that that might be a challenge, but it is at home. And then they host UAB. So whoever it is that they get in, whoever wins that job, again, I think it'll be Carson Beck, but it'll be a competition. They're going to have a little bit of runway. They're going to have a chance to sort of, get their feelings under them. Because to me, when you look at it right now, there will be questions elsewhere on this team as far as positions and who they're losing, things like that. But the biggest one is very clearly quarterback. The defense is returning a ton of really talented players. Receiving core is going to be insanely deep. You still have Brock Bowers at tight end. But the question is, who steps up to replace Stetson Bennett, and are they up for the challenge? There will be growing pains with whoever it is because they'll be new to starting at Georgia. But how do they handle it, and are they up for the moment?
Yeah, and you go back and look after A.J. McCarron, the 2013 season, Alabama unable to three-peat. Nobody ever has. But after A.J. McCarron left, Alabama had to dig and get Blake Sims out of Gainesville, Georgia, who had come in as a quarterback, switched to running back. Lane Kiffin comes in 2014 in the spring, brings him in at quarterback, and they get to the college football playoff, the first playoff ever. They did lose in the Sugar Bowl 42-35 to eventual national champion Ohio State. But then in 2015, Jacob Coker transferred, St. Paul's Episcopal, went to Florida State, transfers back to Bama, wins the national championship. 2016, he gets a freshman who comes in January out of Channelview, Texas, suburb of Houston, that they really had to really convince Nick Saban. I think it was Lane Kiffin and Burton Burns, the running backs coach at Alabama at the time, to take, Jalen Hurts. But they won 3 straight SEC championships, 3 straight playoff appearances, and 2 national championship appearances. They were 1-1. So you think about now, okay, Blake Sims did a pretty darn good job at Alabama with Kiffin. Let's talk about the importance of Todd Monken and his tutoring of the quarterbacks. He's got a really strong quarterback room. But remember, a lot of people have been saying, why do we play Stetson Bennett? We've got all these guys behind him. Here they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think Todd Monken deserves a ton of credit. And I think the story that was liked the most that I wrote over this playoff run was Todd talking about how much he enjoys this job. And that, he doesn't sound like he's getting ready to leave anytime soon. And, time will tell. People say all kinds of things and then things play out differently. But, he talked about that he'd rather be winning in Alaska than losing in San Diego. I mean, talked about the importance of winning. And he credited Kirby Smart with the culture really already being established by the time Todd got here and the players already being here. And it's a situation where I said it on our podcast, the Junkyard Dogcast, yesterday morning, that it's an embarrassment of riches across the board. But look at offense. Again, you got Brock Bowers, the reigning Mackey Award winner, coming back. They just went and got 2 of the best receivers from the portal that were already in the SEC, Dominic Lovett, Rara Thomas. They just have so much talent coming in. We'll have Kendall Milton back. He'll probably be your lead running back, but Dejon Edwards, Branson Robinson, who had 2 touchdowns in that championship game. I mean, it looked like they were just going to kind of ease their way out of there, and then he breaks one, and it's like, well, all right, send Jack Podlesny back out there to kick another extra point. But, Monken is so huge with this offense and the support staff around him. He's been sure every time we've talked to him to credit guys like Mike Bobo and some of the other people involved because it takes an entire staff to, draw up those plays, go with what works, and make the most of it.
Well, you look at Georgia running backs, you think of some of these, God, so many great ones. But, Todd Gurley, Lars Tate, and Kenny McIntosh this year, he wasn't a household name coming in, probably still isn't, but he runs as hard as any running back. But the Georgia running back room, Dell McGee went to Baker High School there in Columbus, played at Auburn. They call him the running game coordinator. What he really is one of the best recruiters in America. They always have running backs, but they call it the big red wall. Let's talk about that Georgia offensive line. How deep are they for next year?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that strikes me when you look at just the close to this year, I think that Kirby Smart ought to call whoever put together the Joe Moore Award and congratulate them for helping Georgia win that national title. They felt disrespected, and Cedric Van Pran tweeted after they won. They just won the national championship, Rob, and I think a few hours had probably passed, but he tweeted at the Joe Moore Award and said, "Still hurts." They thought they deserved it, and they gave it to Michigan. What will really tell, what this offensive line looks like is the NFL decisions coming the next few, probably days, probably weeks. Cedric Van Pran, the center, I would expect that he'll leave. Broderick Jones, the left tackle, I would expect he will leave. Probably the biggest question among the starters as far as the NFL is going to be Warren McClendon. I would think he'll leave, but maybe he decides he wants to come back for another year. That's your right tackle. They're in good shape, I think, with at least one of the tackle spots with Amarius Mims coming back. He's played right tackle. I don't know if they would want to move him to left tackle. Some other options too. Ernest Green was a true freshman this year that was running second team during spring practice. He battled injuries this year. He had to have back surgery in October, so that has kind of put him back a little. But I think he's back to full go and should be at least by the time they get to spring. And they should be good with the two guard spots. Xavier Truss, Tate Ratledge, I would anticipate will both be back. Really, the biggest question, it seems like, is going to be one of those tackle spots and who steps up at center. When it comes to center right now, I'm thinking Austin Blasky is a guy that has played that position some, but they're losing a lot of leadership in that center spot with just Cedric Van Pran, what he's done the last 2 years. They've got talent. They've got a few proven guys, but there will be real questions with the O-line.
Yeah. How much do you think you missed Matt Luke this past year, or did he recruit so well? It may be a few years before you know it, because I know that was he's got plenty of money. I mean, but I don't know if he's going to resurface. He's a young guy, but wow, that big Georgia offensive line. The fact that Michigan won the Joe Moore Award is attributable to the Big Ten minders on every college football TV show in America. They're going to push Ohio State and Michigan down the throats of everybody in America, regardless of whether it's, legitimate or not.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Luke, one, I think he's going to stay in Athens as long as he wants to. I mean, he's got plenty of money going back to when he was the head coach at Ole Miss, and he seems to be really happy there. His kids are there. I know his son's a really good young football player growing up, and I think they kind of like that Athens area. And yeah, I mean, the biggest question going forward is just with Stacey Searles. Obviously, he did a very good job coaching these guys this year. The question that sort of remains is how he will recruit. They got some really good guys. Monroe Freeling, I think, was the top-rated guy, offensive tackle they signed, but also got a Kelton Smith out of Carver, Columbus, and have a few other guys as well that they landed. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest question with the offensive line is how Searles recruits going forward, because they have talent right now, but as well as I do, Rob, it's always about restocking and trying to take advantage of it, especially if you're Georgia right now with this moment, because obviously they're the class of college football at the moment. That can change, so you need to take advantage of it.
I bet Kirby Smart's, if he can, is out on the road recruiting, but he's in there with his coaches. And I like what he said. He said, it was asked about the portal. They don't have a lot of guys on the portal that they've brought in. He said, well, you got to invest in the guys you've got. That's why we recruit them in the first place. And they do a great job of that. And you can see that his players genuinely respect him. They give everything they've got, and they believe. I mean, look, he learned from Nick Saban, but his father's also a coach, so he's got to be a huge influence on him. But just unbelievable to watch. Before we close out, let me say, we most often see the face of Christ in the least among us, and go out and help people with the expectation to get nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. We live in the greatest country in the world, people. Be grateful. Quit whining. Jordan, real quick, Georgia basketball. Mike White, first year. He's having a noticeable difference. The way Georgia plays, that's looking like a good win. Auburn's 3-1 in the SEC now, but they just seem like they're having fun playing basketball, and they've got a system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm very, very impressed with what Mike White has been able to do in year one. And the combo of Terry Roberts and Cario Oquendo. I mean, that's two really strong players in Georgia's backcourt that I think has really upped Georgia's game. And I think they've done a good job this year. Got a big test tonight against Mississippi State. Unfortunately, I won't be on a plane when they're playing, but it's a big test. And I've been really impressed with what Mississippi State's been able to do. But tough loss on the road against Florida on Saturday. I thought it was a game they could have won. They cut it to 3 with probably 3 minutes to go. Just couldn't finish the deal. But a lot to like. I mean, I think they're sitting at 11-4 at this point in the year, 1-1 in the SEC.
Yeah.
Already, they're if they, when they win their next game, they will have doubled their win total from all of last season, Tom Crean's last year in Athens. So, I kind of think at this point, you want to see continued growth and continued promise, but a lot to like with what they've done in year one, and I think it sets them well for the future.
Has he announced, Mike White, a plan to try to just inundate and recruit the metro Atlanta, the 22 counties, 6.5 million people around there that schools like Auburn and Alabama make a living off of?
It's part of it, and they've got guys with that experience. Antonio Reynolds-Dean is an assistant they hired from Clemson who played in the state of Georgia. He's from the Atlanta area, so that's going to help. But he's always emphasized when he's been asked the question, we want to get the right guys for Georgia. So they're going to recruit Georgia well, and they know they have to. But he's definitely not going to make it just about recruiting Georgia. Although I think, too, and you saw it with their first offseason, the portal is so huge for Georgia because they can get guys that maybe they left Georgia, maybe they went and played somewhere else, and they decide they want to come closer to home. I think that's huge, and they took advantage of it in their first year, and I'm sure they will continue to do that going forward.
Jordan, tell people how they can follow you. Appreciate, again, you taking time to call us, and let's do it again next week.
Yeah, on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill or at Dogs247. Dogs247.com. I'm going to sit here and probably write another 5 or 6 stories from the last few days of the national championship. But that's what happens when crazy things happen. Georgia goes back to back. A lot to do, but definitely some fun stories to write.
As they say, that is a good problem to have. Have a safe trip back. And again, this is great stuff. The three-peat, it's gonna dominate going forward, but we'll be talking about it. Sidelines, we're out of here. Be back tomorrow morning with another show. Have a great one, everybody. We're out of here.